the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Friday, July 11th. I hope everybody had a fantastic week, and you're looking forward to a great weekend. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I've got so much work. I need to prepare my courses for Peterson, but I've got to get some rest. I'm feeling exhausted. Anyway, I want to make two announcements before we get to the news. We will get to the news, so bear with me. I know you guys like me to just jump right in with the news, but I want to do it at the beginning of the show so those of you on podcast and watch it later catch the announcements. I'm going to be in Arizona, July 24th to 30th. I'm going to be doing two courses for the Peterson Academy. The Peterson Academy is looking for live audience members. So you can be a live audience member. You have to register. They have to kind of accept you, but that's pretty easy and pretty straightforward. I'm putting the URL for where to register and everything in the chat. There are two sessions, one 24th to 26th. That'll be about money. And then 28th to 30th is going to be about trade. Each one, 8 hours, 3 classes, 2 classes, 3, 3, 2. So if you're interested in attending, go to this URL. If you, for some reason, can't find the URL, don't know where the URL is, don't know what the URL is, just email me, Yaron at Yaron Brook Show. Yaron at yaronbrookshow.com. Now, related to that, on the evening of the 26th of July, we are going to do a Yaron Brook Show meetup. I think the first in history. Official Yaron Brook Show meetup. A bunch of you have already indicated your interest in coming, so I will be letting you all know where and when and the details next week. I've got my assistant's on vacation. As soon as she gets back, she's going to take over the project and she'll coordinate everything and coordinate with everybody. So that'll be on the 26th. It's a Saturday night. We'll figure it all out on next week. But if you want to attend, if you haven't written to me and you still want to attend, send me an email at yaron@yaronbrookshow.com. All right? So that's like the Arizona. One other announcement. I am in the process of scheduling my next trip to Europe, speaking tour. I know this is the wrong show to do it on because all the Europeans are in bed now, tucked in, fast asleep. But for those of you who listen to this later, if you're in Europe and you would like to host a talk, invite me to your university, to some group, whatever choir is, that you at least have an expectation, a chance of getting 50 people to come. But if you'd like a business, any format like that, and you would like to host a talk by me anywhere in Europe, email me at yaron@yaronbrookshow.com. Yaron@yaronbrookshow.com. And, we'll try to coordinate that. I'll have the person who's coordinating my trip coordinate with you and see if we can do it. This includes the UK and anywhere else in Europe. So universities, debate societies, businesses, trade groups, SFL groups, whatever, right? Whatever you guys think of, contact me and let me know, and we'll do something. That will be fun. All right. Finally, I'll just mention this. I'm going to be in Portugal. I'll be in Lisbon for 3 weeks. First 3 weeks in August. If anybody out there is in Lisbon, other than Rafael, who I already know, but if you're in Lisbon and you'd like to get together, get a coffee, or you'd like to do a meetup in Lisbon, or do something in Lisbon, or invite me to give a talk in Lisbon, then or in Porto, I could go up to Porto. in Portugal, in other words, then again, email me, yaron@yaronbrookshow.com. All right. Let us go to the news. July 11th, Friday, July 11th, the news. All right, let's start with ICE and deportations. You're going to be hearing a lot about this. This, I think, is the, maybe the most important, this and tariffs are the most important domestic news stories. I think the deportations and the ICE budget and everything associated with that is incredibly disturbing for the long-term future of the United States. Oh, I just noticed this. Armin, thank you. Armin just did a $100 sticker. Really, really appreciate that, Armin. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's good to see you here. And thank you for the support. Mark, thank you for the sticker. Applejack, that's his third super chat. Thank you for the sticker. That's great. And Michael, thanks for the $50 question. We'll get to that later. So the whole deportation thing, the militarization of ICE, the mass deportation and not just deportation, but detention, because they're not deporting them automatically, they're detaining them, and it's going to take years because they've got a huge backlog and they've got judges and they haven't hired enough judges. And in spite of the fact that they get an extra $170 billion or something ridiculous like that, very little of that is going to actually increasing the number of judges. So they'll increase the number of judges, but not enough to clear this in time. So a lot of this is just about detaining people. And maybe you saw, but they're opening this detention center in the middle of Florida, surrounded by alligators, surrounded by the whole. By wilderness and alligators and just horrible conditions. There are not enough beds. They're detaining way more people than actually they have beds for, and you could go on and on and on. So I want to talk about this. I saw this morning an article by Andrew Sullivan. I really like Andrew Sullivan, except when I don't like him, right? So I have debated Andrew Sullivan. I debated him in Clemson University. You can find that debate online. Andrew Sullivan's conservative, but a kind of I think an independent-minded conservative. He's certainly not a Trumpist. He's always been pretty anti-Trump, although I think he voted for him in this election, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And Andrew Sullivan, I criticized him. He's like a rocking chair conservative, he calls himself. We had a debate. We disagree on a lot of stuff. But he writes some of the most incisive articles out there. I learned a lot about intersectionality and how the left had gone completely wacko from Andrew Sullivan. Indeed, I remember shows way back when I still lived in California where I was reading from Andrew Sullivan's articles slamming the left, and he was very good at it. Anyway, he's got a good article, I think, today about Trump's deportation stormtroopers, which I like. And he starts off the article by making the case. I thought we'd go over this article and then fill in some other details. He started off the article by making the case, look, deportations are not new to America. We've always deported people since the 1920s. Immigration laws came into effect basically blocking immigration from 1924 to 1965. Very little immigration into the United States. These laws were passed under Coolidge, so this is why Coolidge is not unequivocally a good guy. These immigration laws were meant to protect America from Jews and Eastern Europeans who were migrating into America in large numbers. These immigration laws, probably prevented the saving of, 500,000 to 1 million Jews from the Holocaust. But anyway, in the 1920s, Ellis Island, post 1924, Ellis Island was actually used as a detention center. Horrific conditions. People were boarded up there on their way to being deported. And of course, throughout the 1950s and 1960s, there were big deportations of Mexican immigrants, and you know, there was something called Operation Wetback. There's a lovely thing. They actually sent up to 1.3 million people back over the decade of the 1950s and deported them. Even the term invasion, which our new right friends use constantly, is not new. Invasion that Stephen Miller and Trump use all the time. You know, this was language that was used in the 1920s, right? Here's a grand wizard of the KKK. Quote, there is a conspiracy of alien races and religions to overwhelm and destroy America by hordes of invaders. We must get rid of the undesirable aliens of foreign criminals who are a social cancer. Anyway, language goes back a long, long time. Obama deported, holds the record for most deportations in 1 year, 438,421. A majority of them, 240,000 of them, without criminal record. So we've been treating illegal immigrants to this country pretty horrifically for a long time. There's nothing new. Well, there is something new, but the very fact of deportation is not new. One of the reasons Obama had such a high number of deportations, and actually so did Biden, is that most of those deportations happen on the border. It crossed over the border, arrested, returned, right? There wasn't rounding them up in American cities. I saw a video earlier today of ICE walking through a neighborhood in Utah, friendly, cuddly, you know, safe Utah. In a residential neighborhood with single-family homes, really nice neighborhood, rounding up and, you know, walking through the neighborhood, looking for, looking for potentially illegal immigrants to round up. Of course, they're walking through the neighborhood in fully militarized gear with, again, submachine guns, because who knows? I mean, some of these illegal immigrants might be Al-Qaeda terrorists, and they might start a firefight. Hasn't happened yet, surprisingly, but anyway. So the big numbers are primarily turning people around at the border and sending them back. I don't know that we've ever had the kind of rounding up, and particularly the kind of rounding up in the workplace. You might have seen yesterday in a cannabis farm in California, where they arrested, was it a couple of hundred? And, you know, there were fights, and one immigrant actually died. And, you know, so it got really dicey in this place. You know, and these were people working on a farm, just harvesting cannabis, so you guys can get your cannabis when you need it. So what's unique about what's going on right now is the scale, but really the fact that it's happening in American cities. It's happening in American towns. It's happening on American farms. It's happening in American factories, in Walmart, in Home Depot. It's happening places like that. It's not at the border. It's in your backyard. Now, I'm going to read you a little bit from this because he's a good writer. Why not, right? Let's talk about the fact that with the new budget, right? Quote, ICE will now have more resources than all but 15 countries' military budgets. By the way, I also read that ICE has a larger budget now, post beautiful bill, big beautiful bill, than the Marines. So ICE will have more money than the Marines. Anyway, military, and it's set to grow from an annual budget of $10 billion to $150 billion over 4 years. This is a ramp up of mind-boggling size and speed. Some of it will be helped by deputizing the military to some tasks, including, as we saw in LA this week, performative acts of intimidation. So ISIS is going to be, has the potential to be massive. The order now is simple, right? Arrest and detain as many as you can. Old, young, criminal, lawful, children, those who have lived here for decades with no incident, alongside drug traffickers and drug members and so on. child rapists along with landscapers, gang members along with church regulars. And the percentage of violent criminals is quickly dwindling. Only 8% of all detainees this year are criminals, according to CBS. Now, Stephen Miller is demanding that ICE beat Obama's record, right? This is a numbers game. This is a numbers game. We got to have the record. We've got to be best. We've got to be biggest ever. Record of 438,421 removals in 1 year, by any means necessary. In fact, he wants Operation Wetback's numbers in 1 year rather than 10. Trump's daily quota was initially 1,800. Then Miller pushed it to 3,000. And now Tom Homan, we'll get to Tom Homan in a bit, says, quote, do the math. We have to arrest 7,000 per single day for the remainder of this administration just to catch the ones Biden released into the nation. And that's a sky-high goal made much, 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 much harder when there were so few deportations at the border. So it's ICE going into your neighborhood to find your gardener to detain and hope, round up as many of those as possible because they have to meet their quotas. We got quotas. There's a 5-year plan. They've added resources to hire judges, about $3.3 billion for that, $150 billion for ICE, but $3.3 billion for more judges. They're going to hire 800 more judges. They actually need 1,300. Why they're not hiring 1,300, given how much money they've raised? Not clear, but they're only hiring 800 judges. Who knows how quickly they will do that? I mean, I know why they're only hiring 800, because a lot of this is about humiliating the immigrants. And a lot of it is about showing the Americans use of force, showing us that they can use force. They're not going after employers. That was something they wanted to go after. I'm glad they're not going after employers. But it's all on the immigrants, right? So they've got, right? Now, one of the stunning things about this, one of the stunning things about ICE, and I'll read from the article. Those tasked with enforcing all this will be anonymous. This is truly, utterly new, and a deeply authoritarian and un-American development. Thousands of men and women with the power to seize anyone off the streets will have no faces, no badges, no identification, and often no uniform. We are told the reason for this is that families of the, quote, brave ICE officers can be doxxed by enraged citizens and potentially harassed or threatened. But this logic applies to every single law enforcement officer anywhere, to anyone in public anywhere. And yet only the ICE officers get to go look like Putin's thugs. If cops can't wear masks and must have IDs, neither should ICE cops. Threats to and assaults on them, 79 incidents this year out of a workforce of 20,000, we're told, can and should be strongly prosecuted. But masks have to go. If we're going to call ICE officers brave, then showing their faces in public is the least they can do. Yeah, I second, triple, quadruple that. With masks, we unleash thousands of unaccountable, unknowable, and armed figures on the streets of America, breaking down doors, scaring kids, raiding Home Depots, swatting car washes, evoking what can only be called random acts of state terror. And this, we discover, is the point. The whole purpose is to engender so much fear that migrants self-deport and potential migrants never come. The latter is an important tool for border control, as far as Miller is concerned. It's the new wall. We're told only the guilty need be afraid, which is the usual the usual menacing excuse. But the effect of this performative and real authoritarianism is that everyone, citizen and non-citizen, will become used to masked men with the power to arrest walking the streets of the country. We will become used to policing our words so we're not bundled into a van by mistake. We will carry passports to avoid being thrown into jail by mistake. That is not a free country. It is not America. And on this scale, it has never been done before. That is why Americans will turn on this. We also have a president unique in our history in his contempt for the rule of law, who abuses the pardon power to empower lawlessness from his own subordinates, employs a rhetoric designed to encourage thuggery among ICE rank and file, and who makes memes mocking the detained. He and his minions have also now designed a system that will not speed up legal proceeding of illegal immigrants, will not target employers, but will fill our streets with a new stormtrooper army and build supersized detention camps, some surrounded by gimmicks like gators or sharks, to generate sufficient state terror to deter anyone from coming to this country. America, not as a shining city on a hill, nor as a republic diligently enforcing its immigration laws as humanly as possible, but as a potential gulag for the ages. See, I told you he could write well. He writes well. This is horrific. It's ridiculous. It's unacceptable. You know, you're seeing it in videos. See these videos posted daily now of these ICE thugs walking around, and intimidating people, going on farms and arresting laborers who are working, destroying the livelihood of whoever owns that farm. And here's what Tom Homan has to say about, stopping people, right? Stopping people and interrogating people in the streets of America. And this is a quote from Homan. People need to understand. Now, pay attention to this. People need to understand. ICE officers and Border Patrol don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them. And he goes on, they can do it based on a bunch of different criteria, and one of those criteria is based on their physical appearance. You can't say color of their skin. So they don't need probable cause. Talk about authoritarian thugs. Talk about real authoritarianism. They don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them based on a bunch of criteria, including their physical appearance. Yeah, I'm just watching this. ICE is now marching through suburban neighborhoods, conducting home raids. Their budget is bigger than the Marines and the entire military budget of Israel and Russia. Coming soon to a neighborhood near you. We'll get to whether America accepts this or not in a minute, but finally, Trump's not finally, but Trump's mega bill also includes $45 billion for the construction of immigrant detention facilities. Now, to put that in perspective, the Los Angeles Clippers Intuit Dome, I'm reading from Twitter, Intuit Dome, which is this massive, basketball court, one of the most expensive sports arenas in the world, costs $2 billion. Trump has enough to build 22 Intuit Domes. He's building this all over the country to house these. I mean, isn't there a better way to use $45 billion? Isn't there a better way to use all that money given to ICE other than to stop and detain Americans without a warrant, without a reason, without an excuse, without anything? I mean, imagine. Just stopped in the street and asked to show an ID and asking for why you were stopped. Oh, felt like it. You might be an illegal immigrant. Oh, you don't have your passport. You only have a driver's license. Anybody can have a driver's license. Maybe we should detain you until you find that passport. Maybe we could detain you temporarily. We've got a really nice spot in sunny El Salvador. Now, the rumors that Trump wants to backtrack from some of this. There are rumors that Trump, because, as we'll see, I'll give you some polling numbers. The stuff, ICE is not polling well. ICE is not polling well at all. And the rumors that, and he's also getting a lot of pressure from the business community. The rumors that Trump wants to do, to let the gas off, as he said he did a few weeks ago, off of immigrants who are working in farms and factories. But MAGA is on watch. They will be all over him if he tries to do that. They will be all over him. He's going to have a hard time, not with the American public, which I don't think supports this, but with MAGA, with his core, with his base, with the people he relies on, with the people he has to have come out to vote in the midterm election, the people who provide whatever support he has. By the way, current data shows that 42% of farm workers lack legal status, right? I mean, imagine if 42% of farm workers are deported. Now, there is a act the Farm Workplace Modernization Act that is trying to get them to become legal. But the act requires documented labor history, continuous presence since enactment, and clean criminal records. It's going to be very difficult to actually get actually get people legalized through this. But there is an effort to pass this law that'll try to legalize some of these farm workers. But why farm workers and our restaurant workers? Why farm workers and our factory workers? Why farm workers, factory workers, restaurant workers, and our gardeners, self-employed individuals? John Fetterman is good on a lot of issues. I'd vote for John Fetterman. I mean, he's good on a lot of issues. Fetterman, he's very good on Israel, Iran, but he's also good on this stuff. He says, I absolutely support amnesty for hardworking, otherwise law-abiding migrant workers. Round up and deport the criminals. We must acknowledge the critical contribution migrants make to our nation's economy. And their rights and our rights as employers and all of that stuff, but don't let rights get in the way of an argument. Anyway, it is, I really think this is truly horrific. Somebody asked a question, Wyatt asked a question. Where's Wyatt's question? A super chat. Wyatt asked a super chat question relevant to this, so I'm going to take it. Okay, so Wyatt says, if you think it's sad and distressing that people aren't standing up to ICE, should you be joining the protest? Well, let me just say first, what really I find sad and distressing is that you don't find it sad and distressing. I mean, that I find is just horrific, that a significant portion of the American people are quite happy to see the militarization of ICE, quite happy to see ICE agents with face covered with a mask, walking around fully armed in the streets of America. The fact that you don't find that upsetting is what really upsets me. Because now it's illegal immigrants. Next it's going to be just people you don't like, which is what illegal immigrants are, after all. It's not like as a group, there's anything wrong with illegal immigrants, that they deserve this. So the next thing is just anybody you don't like. This is stormtroopers. This is authoritarianism. This is Putin thuggery. And the fact that enough Americans are just like, that is what's scary. Now, I don't believe in demonstrations. I don't go on demonstrations. I don't believe in blocking people's traffic on the way home. But I completely respect people resisting. And I think much more effective than demonstrations, is speaking up, is making your voice heard, is going on social media and talking about this, is having a YouTube show and spending a significant amount of time on the YouTube show educating people about the horrors that American government is inflicting on the people living in this country. The fact that people voted for something never, ever makes it right. People voted for Hitler. Did that justify Hitler? He was an anti-Semite. He told them what he was going to do. So, okay, well, people voted for him. And people didn't vote for this. I don't think people voted for this. And I think that's why, as we'll talk about in a minute, the polling is not going Trump's way. So, I don't demonstrate. I don't believe in protests. I don't believe in demonstrations. Although, if there was something convenient. But I just don't think that is the right approach. But you know what I do? I speak up. I talk about it. I make it a major feature of my show. And I tweet about it. I tweet articles and I reference articles like this. And if, as an objectivist, I believe that ultimately the battle, the political battle, the battle for any of these things is ultimately not a battle won in the streets, but a battle won in the hearts and minds of people, i.e. it's an intellectual battle, then it's much more valuable to speak, to write, to engage, to bring it to people's attention, to not be silent and not be indifferent than it is to go stand in the street with a sign or go block traffic somewhere. So, I'm doing my part. What are you doing? You don't care, is my guess, Wyatt. You probably like this. So, I think that thing that goes, first they came for the illegal immigrants, then and it wasn't me, so I didn't do anything. I didn't know any illegal immigrants. And then they came for the, legal immigrants, and then they came for, that's very applicable. Very applicable, particularly given this ICE budget is massive. At some point, they'll round up the illegal immigrants out, they'll round up all the illegal immigrants. What are they going to do with all the money? All the people, they're hiring 10,000 more agents. What are they going to do with all those people? Fire them and reduce their budget? I mean, how often does that happen? Oh, no immigration problem anymore. We will give our guns and our uniforms and our money back to the government, and we will walk away. Or will the incentive be to find new enemies, to unleash these thugs on? I mean, maybe if we get some good presidents in the future, they'll dismantle this and it'll go away and nothing bad will happen to all of us. But is that what you want to do? So I have all the sympathy in the world for people who are blocking ICE's access, who are interfering with their activities. I have all the sympathy in the world for people who are resisting arrest by masked, armed people. If I was arrested by somebody masked and armed, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do. I always think, what would you do, right? as you're being led into the gas chambers, what do you do? Do you just walk in? Just accept it? Or do you take a few of them out if you're going to die anyway? And if you're going to be detained, put in some deportation hellhole in Florida, surrounded by gators for who knows, months, years, who knows how long, without a trial, without due process, waiting for due process, right? The due process is waiting to see the judge. Are you just going to take it? You're just going to roll over, pretend you're dead? I mean, would George Washington just roll over? Would any of the founders just accept this? I mean, would anybody with self-esteem accept this? I mean, the only people who really accept this are the haters. People who hate. People who look different than them. People who hate immigrants. People who blood and soil nationalists. They're the ones who celebrate this. I mean, if you see Stephen Miller talk, you know the kind of person. Nasty, mean. Nasty and mean. When do we stand up to the taxation? Good question. When do we stand up for the taxation? When do we stand up for the taxation? I completely understand protests. I just don't, I won't participate. I get why people go. I'm not going to condemn people from going. I think, given that the law in America supports protests, encourages protests, promotes even protests, given that the left were, allowed to rampage through the streets during the George Floyd riots, given that the right was allowed to, chant, "They will not replace us" in blood and soil in Charlottesville, given that protests happen every day, all the time, everywhere, I'm not going to condemn anybody from going to a protest. I just think that if you think about it, again, intellectual argument, if you think about it, protests are wrong. But I'm not particularly bothered by people going to protests, given that they're happening anyway. I'd be, there have been occasions where objectivists have been part of protests. Ilya Gonzalez, I remember the Ilya Gonzalez objectivist spoke at protest. Lana Peikoff spoke at a protest in Miami. I think it was Miami. Ilya Gonzalez. I spoke at a protest in Union Square. Now, we weren't blocking traffic. It was just in Union Square, so it was away. But yeah, thinking about it, I don't think protests are the right way to do things. Speak. Write. Debate. Speak up. Don't stay silent when people talk about this. Because, the American people are not mean-spirited, nasty. Yes, they voted for Trump. But they voted for Trump primarily because who the hell could vote for Kamala? God, what a choice they were given. We were given. So I get why people voted for Trump. I don't think they voted for Trump for this. And indeed, what has happened is that during the Biden administration, attitudes towards immigration became more and more and more negative, and particularly illegal immigration, particularly regarding what was going on on the border. But since Biden was defeated, since Trump was elected, views regarding immigration have become significantly different. So I'm looking, so there's been published, I think today, today, it was published a Gallup poll on immigration. And so here's the first chart. I can actually share this with you. Why not? I can share this with you. Let me do that. Let's see if we can do this quickly. Where is this? All right. All right, I'm sharing the graph with you. All right, there's the graph. All right, the first graph. We'll go over all these graphs. All right, so if you look at this graph, this is a graph of do you want immigration to, just generally immigration broadly, do you want more immigration, less immigration, stay at the same level? So you can see that less immigration peaked in 2024 and has sharply come down since then. It peaked at over 50% of Americans saying, we want less immigration. And now it's at 30%. And more immigration has gone up from a low in 2024 of under 20% to now being 26%. Stay the same is 38%. So you can see that the peak hostility towards immigration generally happened, right? Happened exactly there. All right, here's another one. This is, whether you, this is Republicans. So you can see even Republicans who had a 90% decrease immigration has come down to 48%. And, keep the same has gone up a lot. Increase, not really much, right? They're still not pro-immigration, the wonderful Republicans. How immigrants affect the United States. You can see here, immigration is a good thing is up to 79%. Now, a lot of these you'll find are inconsistent. People are inconsistent. They answer questions irrespective of what they answered before. So some of this is weird. But immigrants generally are a good thing, 79%. Highest it's pretty much ever been since they did the survey in 2001. And, bad thing, 17%. And again, you can see the Biden effect. Biden was very bad for people's attitudes towards immigration. His mishandling, his bumbling idiocy of how he handled the southern border was a disaster for immigrants. All right, here you have, this is Republicans, Independents, and Democrats' views of, again, how good immigration offered the United States. Democrats is 91%, Independents 80%, but even Republicans, 64% think that immigration is good for the U.S. Now, this is pretty interesting because this is that was all immigration, so it wasn't illegal. Now we're talking about illegal immigration. Okay, so here's a question: allowing immigrants who are brought to the United States illegally as children the chance to become U.S. citizens if they meet certain requirements over a period of time. 85% of Americans believe they should be allowed. Allowing immigrants living in the United States illegally the chance to become U.S. citizens if they meet certain requirements. So this is not children. This is all of them. Went from 70% in 24 to 78% in 25. Hiring, and then they say hiring significantly more border agents. In 2024, 76%, 2025, 59%. So a sharp decline in support for increasing ICE. And this is not even ICE, this is Border Patrol. I didn't think they'd think that they were going to be patrolling the neighborhoods. Significantly expanding the construction of walls along the U.S.-Mexican border. 53% in 2024, 45% in 25. And then deporting all immigrants who are living in the United States illegally, 47% in 24, only 38% in 25. Now, it's inconsistent for 38% to want to deport everybody and 78% want to give them a path to citizenship. But that's why I say people are very inconsistent. Anyway, that is a poll that came out today. So I think at least if you believe, Gallup, and I don't know, I think they're a reasonable polling agency. It does look like generally support for immigration has improved since Trump is in office, and indeed Biden was very, very bad for the image, if you will, of immigrants broadly. All right. Let's see. All right. That is deportation and the immigration poll. let's move on to, the daily discussion of tariffs. Just some updates. The United States will impose a tariff of 35% on goods imported from Canada starting on August 1st. To hell with the NAFTA. To hell with NAFTA 2 that Donald Trump negotiated with Canada. So we have treaties, we have agreements. Who cares? We're going to trash them. Canada, 35%. Canada, I mean, who could ask for a nicer country to be at your border? There does nothing wrong to the United States. The only reason we have a trade deficit with them is because we import oil from them. 35% on goods from imported from Canada. It's just immoral and stupid and dumb, and I don't understand anybody who defends this. I can't imagine. I mean, maybe you think tariffs are not that important, that's fine, but defending this, I actually think this is a good idea, is really nuts. The 50% tariff on Brazil is particularly infuriating and particularly random and just shows kind of the complete disrespect for the rule of law that this administration has. So it looks like the Brazil tariffs are under the IEEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. But here's the point. Even if you don't like the persecution of Bolsonaro in Brazil, which was given as the reason why we imposed these tariffs on Brazil, even if you don't like that, it's not an emergency for the United States, and it's certainly not an unusual, extraordinary threat to the U.S. economy or to the U.S. national security. Now, both of those combined, emergency and unusual and extraordinary threat, are conditions required to invoke the IEEPA. What Trump is basically doing here is saying, I have power to do whatever the hell I want when it comes to tariffs. I can impose them on whoever I want, at whatever rate I want, whenever I want, for whatever damn reason I want. And the law be damned. Literally, the law be damned. I mean, it is absolutely wrong to let Trump get away with this. I really hope the Supreme Court takes this up soon and rules on the unconstitutionality of this, even if Trump can then use other laws to try to resurrect all the tariffs. It'll take him longer, it'll be more cumbersome, it'll take some energy, he might forget, and at least there'll be some semblance of rule of law implemented by the Supreme Court, even if the executive, even if our president doesn't give one iota about the rule of law. The ostensive rationale for all the Liberation Day tariffs and for using the IEEPA is the trade deficit's an emergency and an unusual extraordinary threat. Now that's bizarre and ridiculous and stupid on many, many levels. But here's the thing about Brazil. Brazil has a trade surplus with the United States. We actually export more stuff to Brazil than we import from them, about $7.4 billion a year. So we have retaliatory tariffs, but they don't have a deficit with us. I thought the deficit was the issue. No, now it's Bolsonaro. It's whatever the hell Trump wants it to be. I'm curious if anybody knows what Ben Shapiro's attitude towards this round of tariffs. I know he was anti-tariffs, but how vehemently anti-tariffs is he? How much does he talk about it? Is he talking about the Brazil tariffs? Is he talking about how Trump is using the law to do this? I mean, if he's not, then he's being completely non-objective. Completely non-objective. So I am being accused constantly of being biased against Trump. And no, I am just being objective. I'm just evaluating Trump based on what he says. I complimented him when he bombed Iran. That was good. But when he puts ICE stormtroopers into the streets, and when he puts 50% tariffs on Brazil and everybody else, no, there's zero rationale for this. Zero. This is from an Ilya Somin article that he wrote about this. Quote, if the president can use IEEPA to impose tariffs for completely ridiculous reasons like these, he can use it to impose them against any nation for any reason. That reinforces our argument. He's one of the people suing the Trump administration over the tariffs and whose case will ultimately be at the Supreme Court. This reinforces our argument that the administration's interpretation of IEEPA leads to a boundless and unconstitutional delegation of legislative power to the executive. Remember, Congress is responsible for tariffs. That's in the Constitution explicitly. It's not an issue of interpretation. A unanimous ruling in our favor by the U.S. Court of International Trade concluded that IEEPA does not, and I'm quoting from the ruling, authorize the president to impose unbounded tariffs, and that such, quote, an unlimited delegation of tariff authority would constitute an improper abdication of legislative power to another branch of government. And, I hope the appellate court will reach the same conclusions. I continue to read from this. The president's attempt to use tariff policy to punish Brazil for prosecuting one of his political allies underscores the threat that unlimited executive tariffs authority poses to the rule of law. Tariff policy, like other significant economic policy, should be based on clear, stable rules that do not vary based on the whim of any one person and cannot be used to punish the president's political enemies or reward his allies. Trump's tariff power grab is a huge step towards replacing the rule of law in trade policy with the unilateral law of one man. That's yet another reason why courts should strike it down. Yeah, I mean, there's some good people out there writing about this stuff. Not enough. And an article like that, and distribution of an article like that, and a retweeting of an article like that, that's more valuable than a demonstration any day. Much more valuable than a demonstration any day. Finally, on tariffs, I'll just note that Japan, who had a unilateral tariff imposed on it, is furious. And its prime minister has now said that Tokyo should make more efforts to become independent from the United States. So from a foreign policy perspective, the tariffs are just a complete disaster. From a foreign policy perspective, we're alienating our allies, Canada, Japan, allies that we claim we need and want in our confrontation with China, the big bad China. And, it's unbelievable to me that we alienate Japan and South Korea and Taiwan, who are going to be crucial for any standing up to China that we do. And Japan, what has Japan done to the United States? Well, I know Trump hates Japan because we have a trade deficit with them, and we used to have a big trade deficit with them in the 1980s, and he still hasn't forgiven them for this. But it again only shows you the extent to which Trump is completely irrational. And again, I'm not going to apologize for calling him irrational and completely, utterly ignorant of economics with an economic understanding of a 5-year-old, which is what I've been saying for 10 years. And I double down on that. That's absolutely the case. And yet, he's president of the United States of America. It's sad. And, again, I think that one of the things that upsets me is that so many of you listeners to the show don't seem to care. The extent to which your rights are violated, and you don't seem to care. All right, let's talk smack about Europe a little bit. So Europeans, if you're out there, you notice that like every few years there's like a big heat wave. I think there was just one big heat wave in Europe, and a lot of people die. I think like 3,500 people died in the last heat wave in Europe. People die from heat. You don't get that in the US. And, you know, Europeans, continuously tell us that how the quality of their life is so much better than Americans. And yet, when you look at, studies, studying people, when it gets hot, people's sleep quality goes down, sleep efficiency, duration, all go down. Productivity goes down. School learning in school goes down. So it's like anything above 20 centigrades, 70 degrees. But once you get to 73 degrees, everything is down. The hotter you get from 73, the worse people perform on a bunch of different quality of life standards. And yet the thing about Europe is they don't have AC. They don't have air conditioning. Bob says, by what standards? But measure, time of sleep, measure the efficiency of sleep, how often you wake up, measure productivity, measures, performance of tests. And Europeans don't have air conditioning. And it's by a huge margin. I mean, Americans, 90% of Americans have air conditioning. 90%. So even the poor in Americans have air conditioning. When I was in, last time I was in Portugal, in Porto, I did a podcast. And one of the things I said on the podcast was that Americans are much richer than Portuguese. And the Portuguese flipped out. I mean, Rafael, who says he just got COVID, God, you just checked that you have COVID. That's not good. Well, I hope you recover quickly. And Rafael does not have AC, and he lives in Lisbon. And Lisbon gets warm. It gets hot. My Airbnb in Lisbon for August has AC. 90% of Americans have air conditioning. That includes poor people. Only 20% of Europeans have air conditioning. Only 20%. And this heat wave, people died. They died of heat. They died because they didn't have AC. It's ridiculous. I mean, you look and, the death rates from heat exposure relative to the United States are significantly higher in comparable cities between the U.S. and Europe. So if you take relative increase in mortality risk at different outdoor temperatures, so for example, you compare Athens, Greece, to Atlanta, Georgia, right? About the same kind of weather. Like Athens, Greece, as soon as it goes above 30 degrees centigrade, people start dying at a dramatically higher rate than in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's not because Americans are better, built for heat. It's because Americans have air conditioning. Barcelona versus Los Angeles, ridiculous. Frankfurt versus Boston. Lisbon versus San Jose, California. Yeah, Lisbon has very much Northern California kind of weather. It can get hot. It can get 32 degrees, right, Rafael? You can get 32 degrees in Lisbon. You get 34 degrees in Lisbon. And that creates real harm to some people. If you have AC, you don't care. I don't know how, I've had AC, except for 2 years. 2 years in California, in Northern California, I didn't have AC. But it was because I was renting. And as soon as I bought the house, I put AC in. And this is one way in which America is much richer than Europe, and much healthier than Europe, and much saner than Europe. And, AC uses huge amounts of electricity. And the Europeans are willing to suffer for the sake of climate change, for the sake of shutting down the nuclear power plants, for the sake of, I don't know, the environment. So good for Americans for now willing to do that. I remember years and years and years ago, this is 1990, probably 91 or 92. I was at a lecture, actually helped organize a lecture by George Reisman, the economist, at the University of Texas in Austin on environmentalism. And it was a huge audience, about 400 people showed up, many of them leftist environmentalists. And they tried to protest and disrupt. Anyway, George was great. And at the end, there was a Q&A, and somebody asked him, what do you do about climate change? No, it wasn't climate change in those days. It was global warming. What do you do about global warming? And George gave the best answer I think anybody's ever given in a Q&A to any question, ever. He basically said, what do you mean? You buy more air conditioning. And I thought that was the best answer. I still think it's the best answer. I was just rolling around laughing when he said that, and you could see the audience was horrified. But of course, that's exactly the solution. No human being can survive in Las Vegas unless you have air conditioning. I mean, I guess some nomadic peoples can survive there, but no normal person, no civilized person, put it that way, can survive in Las Vegas. You need AC. And if climate change, if global warming is happening and the rest of the United States gets warmer, then you need more AC. Build more power plants. Pump in more electricity and boost up that AC. I couldn't live in Puerto Rico without AC. Couldn't live in California without AC. Certainly couldn't live in Austin, Texas without AC. All right, so shame on you Europeans for sacrificing your sanity, your productivity, your sleep, and your health, and sometimes, in some cases, your life, just not to get air conditioning. All right, maybe I'll convince Raphael to get an apartment with air conditioning. Yeah, Raphael says my Portugal is poor, like short video. They did a short video of me saying Portugal is poor. Has 650,000 views. Now that's like almost 10% of the population of Portugal. That's a lot of people. I'm going to be recognized on the streets of Lisbon and harassed for saying that I think Portugal is poor. But the reality is, I mean, it really, I have to admit, I'm not usually surprised by much, but I was stunned by the reaction because, like, the data is unequivocal. It's pretty clear. GDP per capita, disposable income, after taking into account healthcare and education, all the things that they give away so free, supposedly, in these countries, you take into account all of that. The United States is significantly richer than any country, with the exception maybe of Luxembourg, in Europe. Even when you take into account the value of free healthcare. Once you take into account everything, taxes, everything, Americans have just more disposable income. After healthcare, after education. We're just significantly richer than the rest of the industrialized world. I mean, there are a few places in the world richer, like, I don't know, Dubai or something. But, where you have, I don't know, a lot of oil, very few people. But in terms of actual functioning economies, the United States has done pretty well. Not as well as it should. Nowhere nearly as well as I could have it running. But, well, anyway. All right, de-industrialization. I just came across this graph, and it's a really cool graph, and I don't really have to show you the graph, although I could. Yeah, I'll show you the graph. There's the graph. I need to putz around with it a little bit. 1 second. There's the graph. All right, there's the graph. So this is the composition of New York City's economy from 1950 to 2015. And what you see, if you look at the left, you see the line that is at the highest point is over 1,000 on the left. That's manufacturing. What I think people don't know, if not internalized, New York City was once a manufacturing hub. And New York City has been de-industrialized. And basically manufacturing has gone from whatever the parameter is there to basically almost non-existent today. Now, the line going straight up over the last, 65 years is services. New York City has moved from being a manufacturing-based economy to a services-based economy. Now, I didn't know this. I never thought of New York as manufacturing, but a lot of the buildings in New York were manufacturing plants. And it's become services. And has New York City become poorer as a consequence? No, quite the contrary. It's become much richer. And if you think about it, New York City de-industrialized just the same as the Rust Belt did, in the same way as the Rust Belt did. Oops. I mean, the difference is, their manufacturing collapsed as much as the Rust Belt manufacturing collapsed. The difference is that New York City reinvented itself using the same physical infrastructure and converted itself to a service-based economy. Whereas the Rust Belt did not. They're still sitting in their hands waiting for manufacturing to come back to America. New York didn't wait. New Yorkers just shifted. They went into banking, consulting, advertising, Madison Avenue, I don't know, into services. And they have boomed as a consequence. The Rust Belt, not so much. Flexibility, willingness to change, taking risk, embracing change, embracing the new. That's what's missing from the Rust Belt. All right, finally, some thoughts on our friend Vladimir Putin. It's pretty amazing how Putin doesn't really give a damn about Donald Trump. It's so amazing, right? I hate Putin. I despise him, but I have to admire this in him. He has wrapped Donald Trump around his little finger, or at least had until recently. For whatever reason, Donald Trump thought that he would come into office and he would call Putin up and he would cut a deal. I think he really thought that. And Putin has no interest in Trump's BS. None. He doesn't care what Trump thinks. He doesn't care what Trump says. He doesn't care what Trump does. He has decided he's going to defeat Ukraine and he's going all out. And he's at 6 calls, 2 rounds of talks, and all Russia is doing in Ukraine is escalate. Trump is was a few days ago, we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin. Yeah. What did you expect? He's always throwing bullshit at you. Finally, you figured it out. But Putin is getting ready for a major summer offensive. It's already summer, so I'm not sure what he's waiting for. But amassing troops, particularly in opposite Kharkiv or opposite Sumy, which is just south of Kharkiv, but in relatively north, away from Donbass, amassing troops and waiting, I guess, for the right opportunity to invade and to deal what he hopes is a death blow to Ukrainian forces. At the same time, Putin is dedicated to completely demoralizing Ukraine by constantly bombing its civilian population, bombing them and bombing them and bombing them, so that he hopes ultimately that will lead to the Ukrainians demanding their government cut a deal. And then Putin can get it on his terms. And Putin's terms are pretty clear. NATO has to freeze or even retreat, maybe even retreat from the Balkans. Ukraine needs to be neutral forever. Its army has to shrink. Russian language has to be protected. Regime change in Kiev. And all those provinces that Russia has declared them part of Russia need to be ceded by Ukraine. And he's just not budging. And now the question is, what is Trump going to do? He's obviously been made a fool of, and I think he knows it. In an interview with CBS yesterday, Trump said that he was very disappointed in Russia. He says, quote, "I think I've made a major statement to make on Russia on Monday." So he's going to say something on Monday. I'm looking forward to finding out what it is. He also confirmed, or appeared to confirm, so you can't tell with Trump sometimes, appeared to confirm reports that he's preparing to sell additional weaponry to NATO, not to Ukraine, under the understanding that NATO will provide it to Ukraine. So he's not willing to give Ukraine any weapons, in a sense, for free, or on lease or anything like that, but he's willing to sell it to Europeans who then give it to Ukraine. Again, if this is what he said, quote, "We're sending weapons to NATO, and NATO is paying for those weapons, 100%, which is an attempt to appease MAGA, right? So what we're doing is the weapons that are going out are going to NATO, and then NATO is going to be giving those weapons to Ukraine. And NATO is paying for those weapons. Now, if NATO is paying for those weapons, then a chunk of American money is going towards that." He says this is a deal that was agreed during the latest summit. Supposedly, this package of weapons that he's going to be selling is going to be both offensive and defensive. These will be the first weapons going to Ukraine from the United States that Trump has authorized. All the other weapons that have been going in the last few months were weapons approved by Congress and authorized by Biden. These are the first ones approved and authorized by Trump. Right? So supposedly Trump continues to grow increasingly angry and disillusioned with Putin. Maybe this guy learns. I don't know. Maybe he learns. Maybe. In addition, Trump is weighing the introduction of really tough secondary sanctions against countries that continue to trade oil with Russia. That would include China, India, and Turkey. The plan, supposedly, is going to involve a bill that will impose 500% tariffs on imports from Russia, basically trying to establish a global oil embargo. Russia's been very effective at getting around these attempts at embargoing it, but it looks like the U.S. will maybe try again. So again, this is, he has been saying that this bill in the Senate is too harsh. It's not good. Now he's saying he's studying it carefully, and maybe on Monday he'll announce what he's going to do. I mean, Putin has the upper hand militarily. Ukraine has not received the kind of weapon systems that it needs in order to kick the Russians out, certainly, and maybe even not enough weapons to defend itself effectively against a major Russian assault. Those weapons have been slow coming, both from the Europeans and the United States. And of course, as you know, Biden never gave Ukraine the weapons it really needed, always hedged, always limited their use, just was a weakling, just a pathetic weakling. Trump, hopefully, if he gives these weapons, will let them be used in any way that Ukraine chooses to use them in order to protect itself. So Russia is in a strong, I don't know, strong is too strong of a word. It's in a position to do a lot of damage to Ukraine militarily. However, at the same time, Russia's economy is a disaster. It's a mess. Oil prices are still relatively low, which means revenue for Russia is relatively low. And the economy is a war economy. Standard of living, quality of life are plummeting in Russia. And Russia's in deep, deep trouble. It can't survive many more years of this. And now we're talking about years. And if indeed the United States places an even stronger embargo on Russia, the economic fallout for them could be even more dramatic. Trump is reluctant to do it partially because he wants oil prices to stay low for some reason. And if Russia's oil economy is completely out, then oil prices on a global scale will go up, which is good for American oil companies, which means they'll drill more and produce more. They've actually drilled less and produced less this year if prices go up. Wes, thank you for the $50. Really appreciate that. Just quickly, it does look like, at the very least, Ukraine is going to get 3 new Patriot air defense batteries. 2 that are going to be bought by Germany, 1 that will be bought by Norway, and then transferred to Ukraine. They're also getting, more of the missiles themselves to protect themselves. Finally, there's a lot of covert operations going on between Ukraine and Russia. Russia periodically kills a major Russian general or Russian influencer. Well, sadly, the Russians have now killed a senior colonel at the Ukrainian security services. He was killed in a parking lot in Kiev. He was at a huge role in the offensive in the Kursk region, he was part of the group that eliminated leaders within Russia of the Russian separatists. So Russia. Reminder to everybody that every day people are dying in that war. Ukrainians fighting for their homes, fighting for their families, fighting for their freedom, are dying in this war. More Russians are dying. I feel less for them. They're not dying. They're not dying for anything. They're not fighting for anything. You don't die for anything. You don't fight for anything. But I feel a little sorry for them because they're fighting because their government is forcing them to fight. They don't necessarily believe in what they're fighting for. I don't know that most of them know what they're fighting for. They're cannon fodder. There are even North Koreans on the front, they're dying. But this war has constant casualties. Civilian casualties on the Ukrainian side with the bombardment of civilian cities all over Ukraine. It's just horrific, and it's easy to talk about wars from a, big perspective. But people are dying, and some people are fighting for a good cause, and they should be supported. They should be supported to the extent that we can support them. Me, intellectually, but the U.S. should be supporting them militarily, not by sending troops in, but by providing them with the weapons they need in order to fight for their freedom. Russia is an enemy of the United States. And we should be helping them fight this enemy. It's not costing us much. It costs us very little to have them fight this war. And it's a huge benefit to the United States. So these are good people, and we should be supporting Ukraine. I've talked a lot about Ukraine over the last 2.5 years, but it feels like I haven't talked recently about them. I think there's going to be a big Russian offensive soon, so we'll have opportunities to cover that. All right, I just want a last thing. I saw this video, and I just have, you know, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's disgusting, but I have to say something. So this is John Mearsheimer. John Mearsheimer is somebody that a lot of people love and respect and think he's just guru, amazing foreign policy person, and he, of course, sided with Russia in the Russia-Ukraine war. So a lot of people thought that he predicted the war, and he's one of these people. It's all NATO's fault. It's all the West's fault. It's all Ukraine's fault. And I've been saying he's a bad guy, really bad guy, for a long time. I've watched his talks. He's just a propaganda agent for the Russian government. Anyway, he's also, unsurprisingly, really anti-Israel and pro-Hamas. So here's just a little, you know, statement from him in an interview. He says, quote, "The Israelis look like Nazis. Their rhetoric, their behavior, it's truly appalling." And he elaborates on how Jews look like Nazis. So don't quote me, John Mearsheimer. The guy is a hack. You know, that is a statement. That is evil. He is a bad human being. And you say something like that, you know, I don't care what your positions in other things are. But he was bad in Ukraine. He was terrible in Ukraine. He was completely wrong in Ukraine. So this just confirms my hatred of the guy, which was well established way before this. All right, that is the Yaron Brook Show news update for Friday, July 11th. Thank you all for being here. All right, let me repeat the announcements from before. I am now in the process of scheduling a European tour in October, around 10 days or so. UK will definitely be part of it. And I'm looking for people who have connections, who might be interested in hosting me, putting on an event, university, at a school, at a what do you call it? At a business, whatever you guys think. But, you know, something like 50 people would be good. 50 people in attendance. So expectation for that, obviously, can't always meet expectations, but you should at least think there's a chance. If you are such a person, and by the way, this is true, I should say this, of Americans. If you want to invite me to give a talk, and put aside money considerations right now, we can talk about that. A lot of flexibility there for all kinds of reasons. If you can organize a group of 50 people to come and listen to me speak, contact me. Yaron@yaronbrookshow.com. Yaron@yaronbrookshow. Could be in the US, could be in South America, could be in Asia, Australia, could be in Europe. If there is that demand, let me know and we'll work something out. Second, I will be in Arizona for the Peterson Academy to teach 2 courses. If you'd like to be in the audience for those courses, one on money, one on trade. It'll be on July 24th to 26th is money, and 28th to 30th is trade. It's going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. You can sit in on those. If you'd like to participate, I'm putting the link to a form to sign up for that in the chat right now. But if you don't have access to chat, email me and I'll send you the link. In addition, we're organizing a dinner, a meetup, if you will, on July 26th in the evening, like 5:30 in the evening, somewhere in Scottsdale. If you'd like to come, if you'd like to join us, just, again, email me, Yaron@yaronbrookshow.com. Those of you who've already emailed me, thank you. I will be in touch with details about the dinner. So that is announcement number 1. We have 3 sponsors of the Yaron Brook Show. The Ayn Rand Institute is a sponsor. The Ayn Rand Institute right now is wants to let you know, I guess, that there is still, while you missed the 50% discount on Ocon, there's still a 30% discount in Ocon. And actually, as a listener to Yaron Brook show, you get a 40% discount at Ocon. Like you get the 30% plus 10. All you have to do is go and register for Ocon and include the code 26 YBS. Is that right? Is it YBS or Ocon? 26 Y. God, now I'm confused. Anybody remember what the code is? 20S YBS 10. And you'll get 40%. And as you know, I'll be there. There'll be polka. They tell me. They'll tell me there'll be polka and it's in New Orleans, which is great. Yeah, 26 YBS 10. So join us. Ocon is terrific. Next year, by the way, is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That is going to be a major theme, and you should all come. I mean, every single listener to the Yaron Brook show should come to Ocon with a 40% discount. It's not that expensive. New Orleans is a cool city. We can all hang out. We can play poker together. And you should all be there. It's an amazing event. And you get to know each other. It's an amazing event. Alex Epstein, the #1 commentator on all things related to climate change, environmentalism, energy, electricity grid. That AC, that air conditioning, needs electricity. So do AI. He's an expert on all these things. By reading him, you get so much more. You'll get really educated. You really know the stuff. You'll be able to better communicate it. And you'll learn about what's going on in Washington, D.C. and how Alex is doing his best to try to get saner strategy, saner policy out of our pathetic politicians. And finally, Hendershot Wealth Management. Hendershot Wealth Management is offering a product that is it's a product that has the potential to really eliminate your capital gains taxes if you've got large tax liabilities from capital gains. So, this is huge. If you're about to sell a business, or if you bought stock a long time ago and it's appreciated a lot, and you'd like to be able to start drawing some of it out over time, it's financial engineering. It's completely legit. I run the numbers. It works. Now you can watch the video I did with Robert. It's on my YouTube channel. I think it's also on the podcast. I'll check on that, but it's on the YouTube channel. You can also just go to their website. They've got a special landing page for those of you from YBS. It's Hendershot, HENDERSHOTT, Hendershot Wealth, one word, HendershotWealth.com/YBS. HendershotWealth.com/YBS, and there you'll find information about it. And if you're interested in talking to one of them, just sign up and you'll get personal attention. If you come from YBS, I'll give you personal attention. Absolutely. Somebody says, does Yaron make more dollars from ad reads or donations? Donations by a big margin. So, and mostly from PayPal and Patreon. So if you'd like to support the show, if you'd like to contribute, if you'd like to trade value for value, you can ask a question here with Super Chat. You can do a sticker. Jonathan Honig just did $1.99 at 99 cents, $1.99. Raphael did a Euro 19, also did $5.99. You can do lots of stickers, any amount, but it chips away. It gets to our goal. We have a goal for the second hour. We might slip into a third hour. So please, let's make the second hour goal at the very least, because we're probably going to go over 2 hours. But of course, if you want to support the show on a monthly basis, which you should, all of you should, really should, then go to patreon.com or PayPal, put in Yaron Brook Show, and make your contribution. Finally, I'll just say, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Go to YouTube if you're not listening on YouTube, and subscribe. You'll get announcements when I go live. Oh, and one other thing. I'm planning to do a members-only show on Sunday. This coming Sunday? Yep, this coming Sunday. Members-only show. So if you're not a member, now's a good time to become a member. I can't gift memberships anymore. I used to be able to gift memberships. They don't allow me to do that anymore. So if you want to gift people membership, you can do that right now. But if you want to just buy a membership, you can do that down there, down at the bottom of the chat, and become a member, and then you can participate in a members-only show on Sunday. I don't know the topic yet, but members-only show on Sunday. There'll probably also be a show for non-members, for everybody tomorrow. So member-only show on Sunday. Just become a member on YouTube for $5. Don't put a lot of money into it. It's better if you want to do more than $5. Do that on Patreon. On YouTube, just do the $5 to become a member, so that you can not only watch the show on Sunday, but watch all my old members-only shows, which are really good and unique. A lot of them on art and things like that. All right, let's jump into the questions. Otherwise, we will go 3 hours. Michael, Linda. Oh, I should do this before I start with Michael. Linda, thank you for the sticker. Jonathan and Raphael, thank you. Wes, thank you, $50. Really appreciate that. Stephen, thank you. John, thank you. Stinger Bell, thank you. Anthony, thank you. We had a lot of stickers today. Excellent. Mike, thank you. Antonio, thank you. And then we had Armin for $100. Really appreciate that. That really got us close to our goal. Applejack, thank you. And Mark, thank you. So thank you guys for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Okay, let's start with Michael, $50. Michael says, I always thought the internet would break the university stranglehold on the intellect. But has it been the vehicle that spawned the fascist reaction to leftist universities? Would these alt-right ideas become mainstream without the internet? I don't know, but, fascism has succeeded in places without the internet. It's certainly the internet speeds everything up. I still think the internet has the potential to disrupt the universities. It just might take a longer time. I think the things like Peterson Academy and Ayn Rand University, or Ayn Rand Live, which I think is going to be called, are also steps in that direction. I think there are going to be other steps in that direction. So I wouldn't give up on the internet as disrupting and breaking the university stranglehold. I think it's still going to happen. But yes, I mean, the internet amplifies ideas that are being discussed. It amplifies intellectuals. And it primarily amplifies intellectuals that are, let's say, not challenging people too much. Like within a certain spectrum when it comes to ethics and it comes to politics, the collectivism, altruism. And then, so it amplifies the communists, the socialists, the nuts, and it amplifies the fascists, Nazis, anti-Semites, nuts. And look, do I have other forums in which I can speak to thousands of people every single day? No. So it amplifies my voice. The reality is that, every one of my shows is watched by 5,000-6,000 people on average. That's a lot of people. It's more people than I had before without the internet. And that's every show. They're not all the same people. So I'm getting to tens of thousands of people. I could travel all day long and not get to that many people. I still think personal contact has a special quality to it. and is important and needs to be done. Plus, I produce these talks that I then put on the internet that thousands of people watch. But the internet is amazing in terms of the reach that it provides and the amplification it provides. Esoteric Dichotomy, thank you for the sticker. Andrew, does a safety in numbers factor to behavior make objectivism more difficult to accept? As in, if you're liberal or conservative, you can huddle in a much bigger tribe. Is the whole conception collectivistic, even if true? Yeah, I think it is true, because people are collectivist. And people, now, is it metaphysically true? No, people don't, there isn't safety in numbers metaphysically, because the mob can turn on you in any second. And if the mob does something stupid, the mob can be wiped out any second. So there's no real safety in numbers, but it feels good. It's reassuring to an irrational, second-handed mentality, which I think, unfortunately, most people have to some degree or another. Second-handedness is very, very prevalent. Alex, Yaron, quick New Orleans food wrecks. Mosquito supper club. I don't know. I don't think I could get my wife to go to anything with mosquito in the name. Mosquito Supper Club, he says, excellent seasonal tasting menu. Sounds good. Local flavor. I like that. Dakar Nola, epic Senegalese. Tons of Michelin buzz. Ooh, I like Senegalese. I like African food. Commander's Palace and Embril's. I've been to both. I hear Embril is now run by his son, so I definitely want to go to Embril. So yes, I like all those recommendations. Thank you. We'll try to get reservations. Commander's Palace. Yeah, I've been to Commander's Palace. I really like Commander's Palace and Embril, but I like the fact that Embril is now in the sun, and supposedly the sun is innovating, and because Commander's Palace is the food is a little heavy, if I remember right. All right, thank you, Alex. Ian, I wish Sullivan was right about Americans not accepting this, but the American people voted for January 6th candidate. That is where we are in history, and they will still vote for and defend him, even some objectivists. Yeah, some people will. Will they defend him? I don't know. Will they continue to vote for him? I don't know. I still think he won primarily because the Democrats put up kind of the weakest candidate one could even imagine. Remember that he lost in 2020. He really did lose in 2020. So people are not enamored by him. And the way he's behaving now, I think people are even less enamored with. If you look at his favorability ratings, they're still the lowest of any president in history, as low as they were in his first term, which was the worst in all of history. John, what would the modern USA look like if it retained its post-Civil War political system without the Federal Reserve, income tax, drug war, New Deal, economic regulation, immigration controls, and military establishment? Yeah, we would be a lot richer, a lot happier, a lot more benevolent. Just it's impossible to imagine, because you have to, imagine what life was like in the 19th century, and I don't, from a sense of life perspective. And as Ayn Rand said, unless you lived it's almost impossible to imagine what it was like. She said she saw the remnants of it, the tail end of it in the beginning of the 20th century. But post-World War I, it was gone. World War I destroyed that sense of life, even in America. I think in America it was probably destroyed in the Great Depression. But that level, that benevolence, that belief in oneself and in the future. So spiritually, it would be just so amazing, and materially, it's hard to imagine how much richer we would be today. All right. James has a 5-part question. All right, let's try this out. Should a superhero never kill or only kill to stop a death. I like both the ruthless avenger and the one who vows to save life at all costs. Okay, so let me first address that. I think you miswrote that. But I hate superheroes who never kill. I mean, I think that's ridiculous. They're fighting for their life. They really, 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 struggle and fighting and put themselves out there, and they can't kill the bad guys. And then because they don't kill the bad guys come back. So I'm all for killing the bad guys. Absolutely. And I'm all for saving lives and killing to save lives. But, killing the bad guys when the bad guys have superpowers and can't be really locked up in jail is necessary. They've just killed a bunch of people. They have no right to life. Jason goes on. The new Superman drags on a bit with silly black holes, but offers a fresh take as others in the Justice gang don't share Super's life-first zeal. Outside, I can't remember, is Superman the one who can't kill? I hate that. Outside comic book fiction, what classical literature, art, or music explores this moral split? Restraint versus vengeance, given overwhelming power. I don't know if that specific issue, because overwhelming power is something you have to have science fiction for. Maybe in science fiction there's some stories around that. I can't remember. But certainly vengeance is a theme in classical. I mean, Count of Monte Cristo comes to mind as a story of vengeance. Very good story of vengeance, by the way. But I don't know, the overwhelming power is something that you don't find, I don't think, other than in either comic books or science fiction. And I can't think of a story in science fiction that has that theme, although there might be one. James says, the film covers fake news campaigns, shady military contractors intervening abroad against national policy, the struggle of trying to be good, envy turned evil, valuing immigrants, staying true to oneself, not destiny, and loads of Easter eggs for longtime DC fans who know where to look. All right. I'm not a DC fan. I don't like superheroes, don't like superhero movies. So I probably won't see it. Maybe when it comes to streaming, I'll watch it one night when I want a mindless action movie. But yeah, I typically don't. Kim says, I always look forward to YBS. Thank you, Kim. I look forward to YBS too. Daniel, is there ever a case where annuities make sense? God. I can't think of one. They might be. There might be. But they're just expensive. They're not horrible, but they're just expensive. They are, you can create the annuity yourself. So I guess, I mean, not that you can get your financial advisor to create the annuity for you without having to pay the extra fee. Again, I don't want to say never, because I'm sure there are circumstances where they probably can be used. But you'd have to present me with the situation for me to tell you if yes or no. Anne says, should the protest be sanctioned by objectivists? No, I don't think they should. I mean, I get why some objectivists go to the protests, and I'm not going to make a big deal out of it because I don't think it's a big deal. The protests are going to happen anyway. And again, the government allows protests. Protests are happening, whether we like it or not. So it's hard to get too excited about protests, but I wouldn't go to a protest. One of the problems with the protest, somebody said, Hopper says, in follow-up to Anne's, wouldn't organized objectives to anti-ICE protest be such a bad idea? Why should the resistance to ICE be monopolized by nihilistic leftists? To a large extent, because you can monopolize it for objectivists. So imagine you had an objectivist protest. First of all, you'd be going against the objectivist principle of not violating other people's rights. But then, what if the nihilistic leftists show up, as they always do, with their kafirs and Hamas flags and take over your protest? Now you're sanctioning them? How do you keep your protest pure? How do you keep them away? You can't. So it's just not, you don't advocate. Talk, write, speak. It's the best. I mean, I know it feels good to get on the streets and yell. It's not how you change the world. Not how you change the world. All right, guys, $68 to make our second hour goal. We will only do 2 hours, so this is a good goal to get to. It's $500 for 2 hours. $68 to get to our goal would be nice. Value for value. And then I will see you tomorrow. I'm not sure what the topic will be tomorrow, but we'll do a show tomorrow. And then I'm expecting I'll do a members-only show. I haven't done one in a long time. A members-only show on Sunday. Capitalist Spy, great show you're on. Love it because you are right. Thank you. I hope I'm right. I try to be right. Matt, I watched a fascinating video showing the reality of what it's like for these recently deported Americans. Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan on YouTube. Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty horrific. Wherever they sent to. Michael says, how exactly are we not at pre-genocidal levels of hatred and irrationality? ICE is America's first Gestapo. Well, again, it's not Gestapo yet, but it's setting, in a sense, it's setting the foundations for the existence of one in the future. I mean, I don't think it's helpful to immediately label it the worst it can be. But if we don't fight this, it's what it can become. And that's why we need to stand up and fight. We need to stand up and fight. Jeremy just did 20 gift memberships. 20 gift memberships. That means we now have 20 people who can now come to my, including Florida Nick, who I can't believe was not a member already, and Evan, and oh, there you go, and Mirko. Mirko, you online? Waiting to hear from you about what we're doing in Modeno. Anyway, you guys can all attend my members only show. So the rest of you should become members. So you can attend my members only show. And but now we have Eric is now gifting memberships. So we gift a bunch of memberships, and we'll get a huge turnout for the members only show. That'd be cool. That'd be great. All right, everybody. I will. You know what I might do in the members only show? I might do a trial run, like a practice run, of one of my sessions for Peterson. Either on money or on trade. Maybe on money. Maybe I'll do that on Sunday. I'll do a trial run on one of my money topics that I'm preparing for Peterson. All right, cool. I've got a topic. I'm excited. All right, everybody, I will see you tomorrow at some time on some issue. We'll see. And I'll see you on Sunday. Well, at least those of you who are members. You can become a member anytime. So become a member, and then I'll definitely see you. All right. Next week, shows pretty normal schedule. See you, if not tomorrow or Sunday, then on Monday. Bye, everybody.